Hey there, welcome back to another video. This time around, it is my review of the 1988 slasher sequel, Sleepaway Camp 2, Unhappy Campers. Now, despite the title, I am never an unhappy camper when I decide to watch Sleepaway Camp 2. This is honestly one of my favorite slashers. It's easily my favorite slasher film from this franchise. The first film is good, but I've always preferred the second. It's the one I've watched the most, and it's a film that I just find to be really enjoyable and really fun to watch. And it's got a lot of the things that I want out of a slasher film. You've got a cast of likable enough, charismatic characters. You've got a great uh, killer who is charming and in their own demented way. And you have a pretty high body count with a fair amount of creative kills. And in the case of Sleepaway Camp 2, it's also a film that was kind of ahead of its time when it comes to its satire of the genre, because there's actually some meta references to Freddy and Jason in the film. It's directed by Michael A. Simpson, and prior to directing Sleepaway Camp 2, he had directed a fair amount of things for television, some dramas, but not really anything like Sleepaway Camp 2. Like, this is the first film of its type that he directed, and he didn't really seem like a guy who was ill suited to direct something like this. I think he did a really good job, especially when you consider the fact that he shot this and the third film back to back. And then on top of that, he was also playing the producer role because of the fact that the producers of this film and the third movie were so inexperienced when it comes to producing movies. They had no idea what they were doing. So the only person that really had any experience was the director. So he wound up becoming basically the producer as well as the director for the film. And I really like that he approached this film with the perspective of, I am not trying to recapture the essence or the feel of the first movie. I'm going to go about things in a different way. And the way that he went about it was definitely a lot more camp, definitely a more over the top kind of tone and overall visual style, almost to the point where it could really veer into comic book territory. But I think that was honestly the right choice because it injected the franchise with a nice bit of newfound energy, and it helped this sequel stand out and not seem like you're just watching a rehash of what you already saw before in the first Sleepaway Camp. And while the direction is not what I would consider to be something that is super impressive or visually, vivid or something that's really gonna stand out overall, I do think he did a satisfactory job with the framing of his shots and the camera work. But it's definitely not a film that I would say features direction that has a lot of cool camera angles or perspectives or anything. It's definitely a film that is more, I don't know if safe is the right word, but it's definitely a film that is a little bit more plain when it comes to the directorial approach, but it makes up for it with a consistent amount of visual energy. The film just has this really great bit of vitality to it. And I think a big part of that is due to how it's shot. So overall, I think Simpson did a pretty good job directing Sleepaway Camp 2. The film features a screenplay by Fritz Gordon, and for some reason, the name Fritz Gordon is a pseudonym for writer Michael Hitchcock. I guess he just didn't want his name associated with this film or the third movie for whatever reason. My guess is that this was early in his career. I think these were two of his earliest writing credits. And I think he was thinking, I don't want people to typecast me or assume that I'm just, a slasher guy. And I could see some merit in that. If you look at his writing credits, there definitely are a lot of varied types of films that he was involved with as a writer. So maybe that is really what he was trying to go for. But regardless of the pseudonym, this is actually a quite good screenplay for what it is. It takes place 5 years after the events of the first movie. And I honestly really enjoy the way that it opens up with this group of campers who are huddled around a campfire and they start telling scary stories. And one of the stories is the murders at Camp Arawak. And it then transitions from that to the introduction of Angela Johnson, who is now the counselor of this different camp because Camp Arawak was shut down. So there's this other camp that she's now a part of. And I don't necessarily remember exactly what the name of the camp was off the top of my head, but it was a different camp because the name Camp Arawak is something you definitely couldn't sell to parents anymore after what happened. And now they have a new counselor, and the counselor is Angela. And so the story doesn't take long at all to get to its first kill because the girl that told the story of uh, Angela killing all these campers at Camp Arawak is the one that ultimately gets killed by Angela pretty soon after. The girl's name is Phoebe. So she gets into an argument with Phoebe, who is one of the other counselors, and Phoebe tells off Angela. So then she winds up bashing a log over her head and removes her tongue because she had a filthy mouth. And then you have a bunch of other campers that are then introduced into the story, where you have Molly, Allie, Mare, Demi, Leah, and Brooke and Jody Ashote. And they all question Angela about where Phoebe is because she is one of their counselors, and Angela tells them that she had to send her home. And the setup of the script and the story is it's not that complicated, but it doesn't really need to be. It's a slasher. You are watching something like this to see Angela kill a bunch of teenagers in various different bloody and imaginative ways. And that's what you get with this. And I appreciate the fact that it's not trying to be anything more than it is. It's just like, no, this is just a fun slasher movie. We're not trying to be anything other than that. And it takes a lot of the elements of the first film that were fun in that regard, and then really beefs those up and takes away the darker, twisted, and disturbing aspects of the first movie and goes more far into camp and over the top territory. But I think it still works very well. And I think the teens are likable enough. There's not really a lot of depth for most of them. I mean, one of them, her depth is basically she's just a sex fiend. Like she's just a total nymphomaniac. And that in the character of Allie. I mean, she not only fornicates like once with a boy, she does it like twice in the span of the entire film and is like spending half the movie topless. there isn't really a ton of depth for most of them, but the script makes up for it by giving them choice moments where they can leave their mark and leave an impression with like a line or two, or just their overall personality and just the way that they're able to show a certain amount of charm that I think really makes it into a pretty likable cast. Most of the development though is given to Molly, who is in essence the final girl if you really think about it. And the other counselors, there's not a ton going on with them either, like TC and the other members of the camp when it comes to the group of counselors. And even like the guy who runs the camp, Uncle John, there's not really a lot with him either. Uh, and unlike the first film, it's not really trying to do a whole lot with a romance either. You get the idea that Molly has a crush on this other boy at camp, but it never really feels like something that's like really a very prominent aspect of the plot between Sean and Molly. Uh, but it's definitely something that's there. And Angela doesn't have a love interest this time, so they're not really the writer is not choosing to go down familiar territory in that regard either. Like I said earlier, what you are looking for in this kind of movie is the kills, and it delivers. I mean, it's got a body count of I think like around like 19 people, and it does not take very long at all between kills. So it's one of those films where it has a good mix of kills and other stuff. I mean, it's got a pretty good ratio when it comes to its screenplay and the story. The next kill that Angela does after she took out Phoebe, she winds up running into the Shote sisters, Brooke and Jody, and they're smoking marijuana and they're drinking alcohol. And initially, Angela's like, "All right, I'll let them slide this time," but then she finds them having sex with a guy named Ralph later on, and so then Angela just winds up killing both the sisters. He burns Jody to death to the point where she is nothing but a burnt up skeleton, and then ties up Brooke, wakes her up, and then burns her to death. And before she throws the match onto a Brooke, though, she goes, "Let this be a lesson to you. Say no to drugs." And there's a lot of fun lines in this script. That's where, in my opinion, the majority of this script's most clever moments are from, is just lines of dialogue. Uh, Even the way that the Shote sisters twist the Happy Camper song that Angela really likes and enjoys singing is really hilarious. I find it to be it's definitely something that's very I would say very childish, but like the way that the rhymes are set up and just the way that it's written, it just cracks me up. Where the Shote sisters, they're mocking Angela's song and they're all like, "Oh, I'm a happy camper. I love the clear blue sky, but only when I'm shit faced. So everyone get high. Oh, I'm a happy camper. I love the drink and fuck. And if you pay me money on my titties, you could suck." And there's a lot of other moments like that when it comes to the lines that crack me up. Like there's a bit later on with Angela where she's taking part in I think like a Halloween kind of thing for the kids, and the kids are like blindfolded and they're sticking their hands into boxes of gross things, and you have TC and Diane who are in on it, and they're all like, Gross, slimy gopher guts. Look out, putrid wild elephant hearts." And then Angela's like, "Dead teenagers' brains." And then Diane's like, Angela, what's really in there? And then Angela's like, dead teenagers' brains. It's dark, but it's really funny because you know that she's not joking. Like she really has dead teenagers' brains in there. There's also still a little bit of that sinister edge, despite things, being a little bit more lighthearted overall when it comes to the tone. I mean, Angela, there's a whole moment where she's talking to Sean and she's basically telling him, that, hey, you know, wait till your dad, the cop, hears what's happened to you. Which is basically screwing with the kid and screwing with his head and basically telling him, that he's gonna die, and wait till your dad hears about what happens to you. And then when you ultimately do see what happens to him, it makes it all the more messed up because she winds up decapitating him. I like some of the shenanigans too that the campers get involved with. The boys do a panty raid. Then the girls decide to get back at the boys by stealing their jock straps. Uh, you have these two campers named Anthony and Judd. They're trying to scare Angela by dressing up as Freddy Krueger and Jason Voorhees, but Angela winds up dressing up like Leatherface and carves them up with a chainsaw and with the finger gloves because she kills the boy who was trying to scare her as Freddy and takes his gloves and kills him with his finger gloves, slashes his throat, and then kills Judd with a chainsaw. And that's where you have another good line from Angela, where she's all like, sorry, but once I start a task, I always finish. So there's a lot of fun to be had there, especially with just the way that it's having these little cheeky references to these other slasher characters. And then you have, I would probably say, one of the film's more memorable kills, where Angela sets up a trap for Allie, winds up forcing her down into an outhouse latrine and drowns her in human waste and leeches, which is just gross and disgusting and definitely something that sticks with you because the film, it doesn't shy away from showing this poor girl just covered in shit and leeches and then seeing her get drowned in an outhouse. Just the idea of being drowned in human waste is just horrifying, and just depraved. Then Demi winds up screwing things up for her, because for most of the story she has been scot-free, not really been attracting any sort of attention towards her. Angela hasn't thought about her at all, but then she's gets nosy. She starts calling people, the families of the campers who were sent home, and then discovers that the girls aren't home with their parents. And so Angela then winds up paying attention to Demi and then strangles her with a guitar string. And I like the bit where she's struggling to find something to kill her with. Like she's trying out all these different things. Like she's grabbing different stuff throughout the room, and then she's like, "Nah, that's not gonna work. Well, how about this? Nah, that's not gonna work either." And then she decides to just grab the guitar string and strangles her with it. And then, of course, there's that bit where after she strangles her, another girl shows up, so then she has to try to find a way to hide the body. And there's some really funny bits of warped comedy in this script, like warped slapstick, and it actually works quite well. It's pretty funny. There was another kill too that I forgot to mention. Mare she's wanting to go home, and Angela's trying to give her another chance, trying to get her to stay. And she's all like, I'm giving you one last chance, Mayor. We're sleeping out tomorrow night. Just say you're sorry. And then Mayor's like, never. I would rather die first, Angela. And then Mayor is talking to Angela as Angela's like reaching in the back of the car for something. And Mayor's like, what are you looking for? A gun? And then Angela's like, no, a drill. And then just drills her in the side of the head. So after Angela takes out Demi with the guitar string, counselors John and TC, Uncle John, the owner, they wind up firing Angela for sending too many campers home. Molly and Sean, they go into the woods to cheer her up, but then they discover the bodies of the other campers in this abandoned cabin. Angela then ties them up. After learning the whereabouts of Molly and Sean, TC goes after them, tries to get them, but Angela winds up throwing battery acid in his face. Sean winds up getting decapitated by Angela after he realizes that Angela is the same murderer from Camp Arawak 5 years earlier. Uh, Later, Angela leaves the cabin, and then you have this line from Angela that I also liked, where she leaves the cabin that's full of all of these dead campers, and then she's all like, "Good night, campers." Then it becomes a battle between Angela and Molly. Molly escapes. She winds up getting into a little bit of a fist fight of sorts with Angela, knocks out Angela, steals her knife. There's a chase through the woods. Molly falls onto a rock, and you think that she's dead. But Angela winds up hitching a ride with this other driver, and there was another fun line of dialogue from the gal who was driving the pickup, who wound up picking up Angela, and the gal's like, I mean, the way I see it, I'm just too drunk. I mean, the way I see it, I'm just too dumb to drink, and I'm too fat to fuck. And I like the bit where this driver she just gets on Angela's nerves to the point where Angela just winds up killing her. This is another just funny bit of dark humor to me, because she turns on the radio and Angela liked a certain song that the driver had on, but then the driver changed the channel, and then Angela got annoyed and then stabs her. And Molly wakes up. She is okay. She makes it out of the woods, but the truck winds up pulling behind her, and then she thinks that it's just a good natured person, somebody who's there to give her a ride. But then, of course, she winds up being horrified that Angela is the one that's behind the wheel, and that's the end of Sleepaway Camp 2. Um, there's not a ton of surprises. There's definitely some moments where things were padded out. There's a dream sequence that Angela has at a certain point in the film that just uses a lot of stock footage, and it was clearly put in there to pad the running time. And the people behind the film even admit that. Like, that was just something they added pretty much last minute to allow the film to be a certain amount of time when it comes to the runtime. And it's not really a film in the genre that is really trying to be scary. The script is not trying to be scary at all. It's really focusing more on fun. And I think that was really the right call at the end of the day. I think Hitchcock or Fritz uh, made the right call when it comes to focusing more on the fun aspects of a horror film and not really trying at all to scare the audience with this story and with this script. Instead, just put more effort into fun lines of dialogue, fun moments for the different characters to get involved with, and fun kills. And I think it just winds up creating, in my opinion, a, a another cult classic, but just in a different fashion as the first film. A big part of why this film is so successful to me, though, is definitely because of its cast. Pamela Springsteen is, in my opinion, an absolute riot. She is so much fun to watch as Angela in this film and in part three. Who knew that the boss's sister would be such a fun slasher icon? She really made Angela her own, and her ability to deliver wisecracks is up there with some of the best when it comes to the slasher genre. She's got a killer deadpan, and it really makes a lot of the moments in this film involving Angela and the one-liners and just Angela's killing spree so much more memorable and iconic in its own way because of just how good of an actress she is when it comes to the comedic aspect of her character, but also when it comes to showing uh, other sides of her, the moments when she's conflicted or she's being a little confused, or the moments when she's being sincere to some of the other campers, like that one scene with Molly when they have a little bit of a heart to heart. And it was a performance that I genuinely felt was pretty special, pretty strong overall. And a big part of why this film, I would guess, still has so many fans to this day is really due to Pamela and her performance as Angela. Um, she just played this role with such demented glee that it was just immensely enjoyable to watch. And then you have Renee Estevez, who wasn't too bad either herself as Molly. Uh, Anthony Higgins as Sean, he was there for me, kind of bland a little bit, but at the end of the day, he was okay. Valerie Hartman as Allie, gorgeous gal, just total babe, and had a really great personality, just very bubbly, just and did a good job playing what is in essence kind of one of the main antagonists here for Angela. And you also have Brian Patrick Clarke as TC. He had some nice coked up energy. And you have Walter Gotell, who played Uncle John, and he was fine. He was decent as the guy who was the owner of the camp. You have Susan Marie Snyder as Mayor. She wasn't in it as much as some of the other actresses, but I also liked her. We have Terry Hobbs as Rob, Kendall Bean as Demi, Julie Murphy as Leah, Carol Chambers as Brooke, Amy Fields as Jody, um, Heather Binion as Phoebe, um, Benji Will Hoyt as Anthony, Walter Franks III as Judd. Um, Overall, pretty pretty good cast, but definitely it is Pamela Springsteen who really makes this film into something that is far better than your average direct-to-video slasher. Because that's really what this was. This was a direct-to-video film. It didn't even really have much of a theatrical release. The cinematography by Bill Mills, it's not what I would consider to be amazing, but it's fine. It's serviceable. It's decent enough. I definitely feel the same way about the editing by John David Allen. The music by James Oliviero, it works for the film, but it's not really something that I would say is super catchy or memorable, but it fits the tone of the film well enough. And it's a really fast-paced slasher. It's only like 80 minutes, and that's with the end credits. You take out the end credits and it's even shorter. So it's not like it's a film that like really takes too much time, takes too long to get going or anything like that. So yeah, I think it's honestly one of the more enjoyable slasher sequels of the 1980s. But that is my thoughts on Sleepaway Camp 2. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you later. See ya.